Hi, my name's Sharon Love. I am the CEO of outstandinglives.org, capital O-U-T, out. And yes, I am an out entrepreneur.
Hello, Out Bosses. Rhodes Perry here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Out Entrepreneur, a weekly podcast where I get to interview today's most inspiring LGBTQ bosses crushing it in business. And on this week's episode, we are welcoming Sharon Love, who is calling all the way from Canada. So Sharon, welcome to the show. Are you ready to inspire fellow Out Bosses?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. So just a little bit about Sharon. She is the CEO of speakinspire.com and known as the kid who can't even talk because of painful shyness in high school. Sharon Love researched psychological secrets of the world's greatest speakers and leaders. By using the secrets she discovered, she went on to raise $6 million with a single presentation. She also inspired millions of people with inspirational speaking and online programs in English, French, and Spanish, and helped her clients attract over $14 million. That's awesome. So Sharon, I'm super excited to have you on the show and just learn a little bit more about your business and your origin story and what brings you to the LGBT family. So to kick us off, why don't you tell us just a little bit more about your business and what makes it unique?
Sure. Well, I guess the fact that it's outstandinglives.org is often an indication to people. It's very focused on the LGBT community and working especially with LGBT entrepreneurs and LGBT speakers. I also have some LGBT-friendly folks in a number of my networks. So there's 20,000 people in my online networks at this point. There were 2 million people back in 2010 because that included a Facebook group that just exploded really, really quickly. And at this point, they're mostly on LinkedIn. So we've got LGBT-friendly CEOs and LGBT-friendly professional networks and meeting planners and different LGBT-friendly professional groups. And my sense is most of the people in those networks are actually LGBT. And so my new dream now is to get them onto YouTube and really build a solid community through creating a larger movement on YouTube.
Yeah, I think that's incredible, just the numbers that you shared. I think the way that I'm trying to recall the first time I learned about your business, I think it was through the LinkedIn community that you have, and it was super impressive. One of the pieces, I think you talked a little bit about your work in kind of a corporate setting, understanding how speakers come into big businesses and get to share their mission and what they do in the world. And so I was curious if you could just walk us through your journey of becoming an entrepreneur. What's your origin story? Because I feel like I just have little snippets of it, and I'm fascinated by that.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Okay. So I got started. I don't really remember ever not being an entrepreneur. When I was a little kid, I did the lemonade stand thing. And then by the time I was 13, I had my own little babysitting empire because I really loved working with kids and they seemed to enjoy me because I'm pretty goofy. That hasn't totally changed. And then I was teaching programs for children in French. And I guess it was a good outlet because at a certain point, I was aware of the LGBT part, and I guess you sort of weave together, right? I was, on some level, I was aware that I was getting crushes on girls. And I remember when I was very small, I think I was 5 years old, I saw this TV show, and this little boy was looking at this little girl, and there were bubbles and sparkles floating between them, it was like the old-fashioned TV show special effects, and I went, oh, that's it, that's the feeling I have for Shannon. Yeah. I know that feeling, that bubbles and sparkles feeling. So I connected with that, but then I actually acted out the television episode in front of her parents and gave her a flower and said she's so pretty. And I remember her mother did this thing where she was not happy. And I thought, why is this such a big deal?
Right.
I was bullied a lot as a kid. Part of it had to do with the LGBT thing, and part of it was just I was the closest, smaller target to the big neighborhood bully. And so by the time I was 15, I barely said a word. Mm-hmm. Like barely said a word in school. I would talk to the kids I babysat, but that was about it. That was, becoming silent, I think, was part of my coping mechanism. My father was a minister. He was writing articles in the Presbyterian Record about why LGBT people should never have a chance to preach in the church or, other human rights like that. So I was, walking down the halls in school and wondering why my face felt hot when a certain other girl that I liked but didn't really understand that I liked, she would walk by and then I'd be like, oh, why am I feeling butterflies in my stomach? What's going on? And then I'd come home and see this article, the latest article that my father had written. He was in a pretty powerful position in the church at the time as a minister and acting against our rights. So it was painful. It was a really painful time, and I coped by just shutting down and being silent.
Yeah, that was when I was reading through your bio, just kind of the quote, kid who can't even talk. Thank you for walking us through just like how that happened, right? You discovering who you are in the world, navigating kind of the family dynamics that were shaping your life, and just kind of getting these messages where it's not okay for you to be your authentic self. And, this is definitely a huge part of your origin story to get to a place where now you are working with thought leaders and speakers within the LGBT community to help them get their message out. So, like you had said, you were always entrepreneurial in spirit. How did you take that lived experience from your adolescence to then kind of shape what you're doing in the world now? Like, what was that bridge?
Well, I think it started, there were kind of two main turning points. One was when I got put in a group with the popular girl in grade 10. In Canada, that's you're 15 years old, and when you're in grade 10, and so I got put in the group with the popular girl to give a presentation, and she actually yelled. I mean, she was like really upset, and she practically jumped out of her chair and said, "Sharon, I'm supposed to give a presentation with Sharon. That kid can't even talk." And I remember stammering, and everybody looked at me like they had just noticed me for the first time because I've been so good at being silent and hidden, and I felt my face getting hot and I didn't know what to say. And then I thought, I really like people. I want to break out of my shell. She's right, she was right. So that was the first turning point. And then my cousin Ted, I think it was a year or two later maybe, he was visiting from the States. I just remember him looking at me and listening and nodding in a way and looking in my eyes like he really actually heard what I was saying and considered it like it was an important thing that I said. I don't remember what I said. I have no idea. But I could remember the look in his face. And I remember going, he's listening to me like I'm a human being.
Yes.
I was so used to being bullied and or ignored by boys my age at that time that it really struck a chord. And all of a sudden I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe I am a human being.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking, wow, okay, yeah. So that really encouraged me to start to come out of my shell more and to start talking. I went on and became an ESL teacher for a number of years. They needed me to talk so they could learn English. Got a lot of immigrants to Toronto, where I was living at the time, and they needed me to talk. So I talked. And that helped get me out of my shell. I wasn't passionate about grammar and things like that, though. I was really interested in psychology, and I did a master's in multicultural psychology at University of Toronto. And then I had this weird dream, nighttime dream, like where, I don't know, it was like my subconscious was speaking to me and going, you need to talk to your grandmother. And I guess, on a conscious level, it wasn't rocket science. She was 96. She wasn't going to be around much longer. And I wasn't really talking to my family at the time because they're super religious. And so I went and talked to my grandmother, and she said, blah, 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 when Ted died. And I said, well, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean? She said, when Ted died. And I was like, no, what are you talking? What? And it was my cousin Ted had come out, the one who had given me that courage in the sense of being an actual human being. He had come out to his family and then to his parents, I guess, and his brother, and then he took his own life.
Wow.
I didn't even know he was gay, or, well, he said he was not straight. That's what he told his parents.
Wow.
So I was just devastated. And I'm pretty femmy. I have long hair and lipstick. And so like these people, the biggest bigots hired me, and sometimes, and they would have no idea what, they just hired a lesbian until, I would slip, and eventually people would find it out, at work. So
can you talk to us about that a little bit, like early in your career? So you were working for, you had talked about doing ESL for a bit, teaching immigrants English, folks who speak Spanish and French, and were you working for a corporation at that time?
Like I speak Spanish and French, and they didn't mostly speak Spanish and French and German or any of the same languages I spoke.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. So there was a big language gap.
I didn't speak at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of students from the Middle East. So that was really hard because as I was coming out, and students from Africa and the Middle East, and who I adored, they were like my family. And then every once in a while, it would just surface in conversation where, they came from war-torn countries, and war and homophobia go hand in hand. So I did manage to have some breakthroughs around it, but I also experienced a lot of fear and a lot of pain coming out, because it was kind of like the same response I got from my family all over again, only it was a little more in my face. It was like, oh. And they told me about what happened to LGBT people in some of their countries, and I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
I got to be really careful what I say here.
Yeah,
they didn't always get it.
Right. It's the security that you have in your job and how much you want to share, especially as an educator, to still have respect of the students that you're working with. And that's just a lot of pressure when you have to hide, or not necessarily hide, but just cover different aspects that are so central to who you are, including your sexual orientation.
It's especially important in education, and there's all these people who are like, well, why won't teachers come out? They've got to come out. The kids need, the kids are working with whoever, right? The students need support. The LGBT students need support. Often the teacher is not safe. I got fired a number of times for being outed or coming out at work. It's just, unfortunately, that was where it was at. So I went on to to become a college professor. Then I went into training development. Somewhere along the way, somebody said, oh, you should become a motivational speaker. I said, no, I don't know. And they're like, well, it pays really well. And at the time, I was earning college professor wages, which are often below the poverty line in Canada, as well as in the States, I understand.
Yes.
So they said, no, seriously, you can actually really earn a good living as a motivational speaker. And I went, yeah, whatever, sure. And they're like, no. Do you know how much you can earn? And I went, no. They said $10,000 an hour. And I just fell off my chair.
You're like, I'm not making that in a semester, right?
Salary. What's that?
It's like you're not making that in a salary if you're an adjunct professor, for a class or things like that, right? No. Yeah. It puts things in perspective. No. When was that in your career?
It blew me away. And I was just like, you've got to be joking. So I went home and I Googled it, and I was like, okay, this person, they seemed like an honest person. And I'm like, but they've got to be, they can't be telling the truth. So I Googled it and went, what? There's extra zeros here. What? I've never heard of these people. Who are these random people I've never heard of making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 an hour? I was just blown away. I just Googled keynote motivational speakers.
Yep.
Or keynote speakers, and went, okay, that's insane.
So
I tried to do that for a while. Failed miserably. I was only making $1,500 a talk, which, because I didn't have that much confidence, and I was worried that I'd slip up and out myself. And I just, I struggled with it. So I finally just got a job as a bilingual corporate training manager. And then all of a sudden the speakers were calling me to get booked. And I went, oh, they're making the same mistakes I used to make.
Yeah.
And now I know their mistakes. And now I know why, because I was in that position. I now understand their psychology inside out, because I was that person.
Right. And what value that is to both understand the psychology of kind of the business behind speaking and working in an environment where you are one of the decision makers, right? So you understand the business aspects of what you're looking for in these keynote speakers, right? That will make you and your business look good because you're bringing people that are truly motivating your team or the audiences that you're trying to appeal to.
Yeah.
Can you like walk us through like that? So you're working in this position. When did you then break out and start your business, the business that you have right now?
Well, I had a number of different corporate jobs, and what I found was for the first few months, I would be ridiculously nervous. Again, the long hair, the lipstick, that's kind of been my look for a while now. And so I would go in and get these jobs based on my resume and the fact that I'm told that I look straight, right? And then I would be like, oh, I have to go eat lunch on my own. If they find out, I'm dead. And in a lot of cases, that was the case. I would if somebody outed me or I accidentally slipped and said something and somebody figured it out, it'd be like 3, 2, 1, Friday. That Friday, I'd get a pink slip. It happened about 7 or 8 times.
Wow.
And I think it was after one of those times that I was just my cousin had died. I lost my job. I lost my family to homophobia. I was bawling. I was picking up rocks and throwing them into Lake Ontario, desperately trying to release some of this pain because I was so overwhelmed.
Right.
And I thought, this is why people kill themselves. This is why people do crazy acts of violence. And I was like, I have to get rid of this pain. And I'm throwing the rocks into the lake and picking up another one, squeezing it and trying to get all my pain out and throwing it in the lake. And I've got to do something with this because this is really way too much pain for one person. I can't handle this anymore. There's been way too much bigotry in my life, way too much discrimination, and it's too much pain. I've got to do something with it. And I squeezed all my pain and I threw it, and then I picked up another rock and I went, I'm going to inspire 1 million people. I'm going to inspire 1 million people, and I'm going to save lives of bullied LGBT youth. And I squeezed that rock and I wound up and I threw it. And I'll never forget the feeling of going and watching the splash and watching the ripple effect of that rock. And I could feel these tingles down my spine. And I went, okay, whoa, something just happened. I don't know what, but something's happened.
Yeah.
And a few years later, I got invited to Facebook. I thought, what is this ridiculous thing? And then I went, oh, this is where I could inspire 1 million people. So my first group got 5 people in it, but I just kept at it and I kept playing with it. And I used secrets I had discovered after years of research into the psychology of the world's greatest leaders. And I started using them with this Facebook group and with this dream I had. The 17th one was called I Bet We Can Find 1 Million People Who Support Same-Sex Marriage. And we reached over 2 million people in just over 2 weeks. It was crazy. It was like, quick refresh, 10,000 more people, quick refresh, 10,000 more people again. Oh my God. And somebody goes, I want to sign a petition. I was like, okay, petition. We'll screw it together. We got 60,000 petition signatures. I was not expecting this. We already had same-sex marriage in Canada. We had it for years. I was like, who's joining this? It was mostly American.
Yes, everyone in the United States because we were so far behind. But I just want to pause for a second because I think that your story that you just shared right now is so powerful in that you were talking about, this experience of, just having good jobs, sharing a little bit about yourself, getting fired, at least 7 times specifically because you're a part of the Rainbow family. And there's that one time that was one time too many. You went to Lake Ontario, you had a bunch of rocks in your hand, and you were trying to just negotiate this pain that you had. And there was that turning point for you where it's like, okay, this next rock is what I want to manifest in the world. I want to inspire 1 million people. And the fact that you discovered Facebook, and even in that first attempt where you just had 5 people, those were your first 5 people to getting to that 1 million by kind of aligning with a mission of recognizing just some of the inequalities that so many of us within the Rainbow family still experience in different countries all around the globe. You were able to attach your mission to trying to allow people to legally marry, right? And so many people, especially in the United States during that time, really resonated with your message. So I just think that I just wanted to pause there because that's how this starts. When you have a great idea that aligns with your professional experience and what you see in the world as part of your purpose to make this planet a little bit better, I mean, you're doing that, and you're doing that in your business. And I'm just curious, like, now that you are inspiring millions, right? And you're working with different thought leaders, like, what is the thing right now in the business that you're doing that is inspiring you? Because you're inspiring so many other people. Like, what's the thing that keeps you going day in and day out? Because it's hard. It's hard to be an entrepreneur.
It is. This is so important. This is one of the things I work with the speakers and the entrepreneurs that I work with, is creating that mission. And that was the secret number one that I learned when I was studying the secrets of the world's greatest leaders. There was one thing that they pretty much all did, and we're talking Alan, Etheridge, Oprah, Obama, like the Nelson Mandelas of the world. I was looking at them going, how did they do it? How did they overcome their challenges? How did they overcome violence or bullying or trauma or whatever they went through and go on and inspire and empower millions of people? And there were 4 things that they all did. So I love to share those things with my clients. And the number one secret is what keeps me going. And because there's setbacks every single day, and there's still homophobia. There's still, I'm working on a Kickstarter right now. And I was like, ooh, do I come out in the Kickstarter? This is going to could be really super public, which I wanted to be in at the same time. How safe is that, right? So the secret that keeps me going, the number one secret that helps me to inspire and empower millions of people, and also raise over $6 million with a single presentation for a youth business center, is this. And I call it Align with Greatness. And that's even one of my brands, actually. It's Win With Your Heart. So winwithyourheart.com is one of my brands, because when you create a vision that benefits you, other people, and the planet, that's when you really win. And that's when everyone wins. And that's when you get this like, whoa, like this mass movement of people going, yeah, I want to be part of your thing, because they feel it. They feel that connection to your heart and the way that your heart is connected to their hearts and the heart of the world. And so if everybody could just take a moment and think, like, how is my life, how is my career, how is my business benefiting me on a scale of 1 to 10? Yeah, it's totally benefiting me. Or maybe I need to actually be a little bit more selfish, like I need to see with the 2 million member movement. I wasn't ready for that success. Whoa. Now I'm like, okay, let's make that happen on Kickstarter and make it sustainable so that we can have a movement that's going to reach 1 billion people. This is my new vision. So my new vision is to inspire and empower 1 billion people to thrive, change lives, and create a kinder, LGBT-friendlier world. And that's through videos, music videos, storytelling videos that are going to make a massive difference. And also with my website, that benefits me, it benefits other people, and it benefits the planet as a whole. So you think about, how's your life benefiting you? How well is it benefiting other people? How is it benefiting the planet as a whole? And you're really crystal clear about that with yourself as well as with other people. Absolutely. Why you're doing what you're doing, that's when magic happens. Yes. I mean, what you're talking about is so inspiring, and it's, it's the essence of the show too, which is very strengths-based, and this is the 95th interview that I've done with another LGBT entrepreneur, right? Wow, congratulations. Yeah, thank you. And I mean, something that seems consistent with almost every guest that I've had is that they have aligned with their greatness. They've transformed these really painful stories, some similar to some of the stories that you've shared, and really thinking about, I don't want to perpetuate this. I don't want to perpetuate these feelings. So how do I change the script? And you're right. I mean, it starts with them. It starts with getting clear on what they want to see in their life. And then it just seems like there's this realization as you continue to build your business where it's like, not only am I taking care of myself, like I have a responsibility now to do good and to lift up communities like the Rainbow family, right? And beyond. And it's really, really powerful. And I like what you were saying where when you first said, I want to inspire 1 million people, that even when you said it, maybe it felt like, okay, maybe I'm not ready for this success. Look at where you're at now, where it's like, not just 1 million, you're talking about 1 billion people, and it's totally possible. And you know that because you've already touched
2 million people, right? I mean, like you have results.
Yeah,
And
2 million in just over 2 weeks. I went, I should have been dreaming bigger.
I mean, it's huge. It's huge. And that's like the internet can just scale things in such a way. And, and I just want to kind of go back to what you said when you first got started. After you put that out there, you discovered Facebook and you had your first group and you had 5 people, right? And so I think that's also important for people, for so many LGBT folks who are thinking about starting their own business. Like you have to start with that first follower. You just do. And don't doubt that. Don't doubt that vision, because I think that you're someone who is doing really good in the world and you have these results. And I just think that the more that we can share that kind of success and really lift up other folks, we are in a really, really good place. And so I'm saying that, and I want to pause just really quickly for a sponsorship break. And then we're going to kind of jump back and talk a little bit more about our rainbow superpowers. Hey, Outbosses, Rhodes Perry here. As you all know, part of my passion for this podcast is to empower you and fellow LGBT entrepreneurs to cultivate a feeling of purpose and belonging in your business. To know that you can show up and be the most authentic version of yourself. Purpose, belonging, and workplace culture are concepts I take seriously in my own consulting business. In fact, I'm on a mission to empower leaders just like you and those on their way to joining us to cultivate cultures of belonging. In my upcoming book, Belonging at Work, I share some of my personal struggles of coming out as a trans guy in the workplace and how I leverage this experience as one of my business superpowers. Now, I'm on a mission to support you in taking simple actions that will make a world of difference for anyone who has ever felt as if they needed to hide important aspects of themselves on the job. When you commit to purchasing a special, limited edition copy of the book, a portion of your purchase will support expanding workplace opportunities for fellow transgender and non-binary people. An added bonus, your story about what it means to belong at work will be featured on the book's website to inspire others. You're ready to belong at work now. To learn more, visit Rhodes on Amazon.com or text 444-999 and type the word belong. Again, that's Rhodes on Amazon.com or text 444-999 and type belong. We are now jumping back into the interview with Sharon Love. So Sharon, I wanted to talk a little bit more about your LGBT identity in business. And we talked about some of the challenges, which, there's a lot just to kind of show up and be authentic. And I wanted you to kind of hone in and think about those lived experiences. And we talked a little bit about how you transformed some of your pain to be in business and to be really successful. When you think about all of those lived experiences, do you feel being a part of the Rainbow family gives you some kind of competitive advantage as you're building your business? And if so, what might be some of those I call them superpowers, but what are some of those things that you've kind of,
nice.
Yeah, like when you put on your entrepreneur cape, like what are some of those superpowers you use in your business?
I've got my superpower armlets on as we speak.
Yes.
And actually I've created little children's superheroes as well that at some point I'm going to do something fun with. They're called Super Peace Monkeys. So I'm all about the superpowers too. I hear you.
Yes.
Awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that I've started a wide range of different LGBT-friendly networks. So when things got scary out there in the world, I would come home and start an LGBT-friendly network for whatever was bugging me that day or whatever dream or goal I had that day. And they grew while I was sleeping. A lot of them are on LinkedIn now at this point. There's a LGBT-friendly professional network is one of the networks I started. It's on LinkedIn. It's got over 5,000 professionals in it. There's an LGBT-friendly CEO network that I started on LinkedIn that's got over 1,500 or 1,600. I can't remember. They keep growing. It's hard to keep track. That one's quite huge. There's a wide range of different LGBT-friendly networks I've started on LinkedIn and on Facebook and with Twitter and things. So, and apparently I've got like 500 Instagram friends, and I haven't really started posting on Instagram yet, but I'll that'll be coming soon. Yeah, like I just did a Facebook Live right before this interview, and I posted all over the place and said, and by the way, I am a lipstick lesbian, just because I've been in lesbian bars and been called straight girl. Mm-hmm. That's how straight I apparently look. So I think it is a superpower. I think there's something to be said for staking our claims, like at one point I thought, oh, maybe I should just focus more on the speakers, and I'll just focus on the speakinspire.com. That's another one of my brands. I love creating brands. It's a hobby. I do it for my clients now because otherwise I would have way too many. I thought, well, I'll just focus on the speakers. I'll just do speakinspire.com. I'll help them to get high-paying speaking engagements. But you know what? Things kept happening that brought me back to the LGBT community as a focus, and the LGBT-friendly community as a focus. So I'm very open-minded. Some of my best friends are straight. So I love working with the parents who are saying, yeah, I love my LGBT kid and I totally support them and I want to support what you're doing. Or just, people who say, yeah, my friend or my cousin or my uncle or whoever, I know somebody who's gay and I love them and I'm cool. So I love working with them and I love helping them to understand our community and how to reach out to our community. And I love helping our community to reach out to each other in a way that inspires and empowers everybody. Whether or not they actually buy into your business. And this is one of the keys I find that's so important. We need to be using inspirational marketing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As opposed to the old-fashioned marketing.
Yeah, when you say inspirational,
we need to be inspiring and empowering people. Because that's what people share on social media now. It's not about you can just force your ads on people. It's about you. If you can inspire and empower them before they even do business with you, that's when magic is going to start to happen. That's when the energy flows. That's when you get clients you love.
Yes, I like that.
And that's when you're really doing what you love and making a difference.
I think that's really key.
Had this kid come to me recently.
Yeah. And just kind of I really like what you were saying and going back to your superpower, it sounds like, what you do, that there's community within the Rainbow family. And when you see that there are gaps, you go ahead and create those communities, right? So just some of the networks that you created on LinkedIn, as well as some of the other social media platforms, it's like, we need an LGBT professional group, or we need a CEO group for LGBT folks, and that you're doing that, you're creating those spaces. And absolutely, I think that's a huge superpower, especially when it feels like we're in a world, or definitely here in the United States right now, it feels a little scary. Personally, I know I can lean on many different communities to get strength and inspiration and support. And it's great to know that you're one of those community connectors online that's creating safer spaces online for us to just talk and be real and talk through some of the great superpowers we have, but also some of the challenges that we face in business. Just kind of on that note, kind of considering all of the challenges and some of which you were sharing your story, and also these superpowers that we have, what would you like our listeners to know or walk away from this conversation just to show up and be more authentic in their work right now, whether they're starting their own business, they're in their own business, or they're working for someone else?
I'd say get a mentor and be a mentor.
Ooh, that's good.
So I had a youth who approached me just a little while ago. She had been kicked out by her preacher father, which I totally related to, and her mother, because she was trans and her parents were bigoted, and she had been kicked out. She was considering taking her own life, and she's a real inspirational, brilliant youth. She's just a total sweetheart. I adore her. And what I loved was being able to mentor her. I gave her about 10 hours of mentoring and helped her to get back on her feet emotionally. And then I sent her 2 months' rent. And I just, she was kind of embarrassed. And I was like, I'm hiring you. I'm just paying you in advance. You are so good at videos that I am hiring you and paying you in advance. And I know it's going to work. And together, we're going to create a mentoring program. And together, we're going to get 100 youth. We're going to get 1,000 youth. And we're going to create this movement that is going to inspire and empower 1 billion people. And I just love, for me, she calls me mom. She adopted me. She lives in the Philippines. So that keeps me going. It's like, if I have a bad day, I think, okay, what would I tell Joshua if she's had a bad day like I just did, right? And how would I mentor her. And then I also have mentors for myself, because I think that's really important. In fact, I'm even starting a mentoring program called Inspired Hearts MBA. But MBA stands for Mentoring Brilliance Academy. So it's going to be a lot more fun than a traditional MBA, and it'll be online. So really creating those kinds of connections and applying the secrets of the world's greatest leaders, aligning with your heart, win with your heart, align with that greatness within you and with that vision, so that you're making money by making a difference.
I think that's really, really great advice.
And I guess I would say, and if you want to join the dream, like after I helped one of my clients raise $100,000 on Kickstarter in just a few weeks, I thought, okay, I need to do that for us. I would really love to have anybody who comes to me with a dream and help them to raise at least $100,000 or preferably $6 million. I mean, there's people who've raised $20 million on Kickstarter, and they're in the next town over where I live here.
Yeah.
It's doable, right? We can do this. Whatever your dream is, connect with the right people. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to spend years doing a master's in psychology. You don't have to spend years growing 20,000 member networks or anything like that. You can collaborate. You can save years.
Yes.
I used to think I had to do everything myself. You don't.
Yes, that is, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's the magic of doing business with people that really inspire and motivate you, is that you can speed ahead and combine that with the internet and just the reach that you can have through Kickstarter campaigns or social media. It is both inspiring. It can feel a little overwhelming. And you're right. Like if you do align yourself with other people who've done it before, it's like, okay, we can figure this out and move faster. So we are now going into our bonus round where we'll have the chance to get to know Sharon a little bit better, gain some insights on how we can bring our whole selves to work. And then we're going to learn one way that we can stay in touch with Sharon after our conversation. Okay, Sharon, are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So finish the sentence. As an out boss, I believe.
I believe that it's going to sound so cheesy. anything is possible if you're willing to fail forward.
Yeah.
And it took me 17 times before I reached 2 million people, but I just kept making mistakes and learning as I went.
Yeah, failure is our greatest teacher, right? So I think that is really, really good advice.
Failure way to success.
Yeah. So do you have a mantra or a quote that you reference to stay motivated in your business, especially when things get tough?
Yeah, I have several. I work out daily, pretty much, at least every other day, but usually every day. And I say, I am love now. I am loving bliss. And I just repeat that to myself. There were times when things got really tough financially, and I was not good at taking care of myself and putting my own needs first for quite a number of years, probably self-esteem issues, religious issues, who knows what. So I didn't think I deserved to have prosperity or any of that, right? So even when things were really, really rough and I went through some really hungry times, I would walk down the street and go, I am a blissful, loving, and beloved billionaire. Yeah, I am a blissful, loving, and beloved billionaire. And I would just keep that in my head, regardless of what the situation was. I mean, I was homeless at one point because I had given far too much, and I donated too much time, energy, and money to causes like saving lives of bullied LGBT youth. And I just kept that energy alive. And, now I've been able to take that step of helping Joshua save her life. And now together we're creating something, and I'm aiming for 100 youth next, and it's building. So I'm like, yeah, send me the money now, universe. I'm ready.
I love that.
I'm so ready. So I'll just save more lives with it and drive and change lives and inspire more people.
Absolutely. That piece on self-worth is really, really important. And that the work of just repetitive mantras, like what you said, I am love now, I am loving bliss, like those things that it just seems so basic. But if you get in front of a mirror and you do that, it really does transform and change. And, if listeners are skeptical, I definitely recommend folks like Louise Hay who is no longer with us, but has done such awesome work around affirmations, and it can help. It definitely can help. So, Sharon,
and you should look at yourself in the mirror and wink and smile at yourself.
I love it.
When you do affirmations, it makes it even more powerful. It's like, oh, I love you. Like, just look in the mirror and go, I love you. I do that on a regular basis now.
Yes. It's great advice. It's great advice. So keep that coming. So you had said earlier, like kind of collaborating with people really can speed things up. And so I'm curious, can you share one thing that you readily delegate in your business so that you can stay focused on what you're good at?
There's one thing I regularly delegate. That's a very good question. I clearly need to be delegating more.
You and me both.
I guess there's different forms of delegation. So I'm looking at there's a mess that needs cleaning up, and I've delegated that to tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Your future self.
There's a lot delegate. Of papers. I write a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's if you keep a list, right, or if you're thinking about like this massive team that you're going to build in the future, like what would be the first thing that you would delegate because you want to focus on what you're good at? That might be a better way to frame the question.
Well, I mean, this would be an example, right? This interview, right? Like you're interviewing me. That's refreshing. I'm normally the one who has to come up with my own questions and do my own some of my own PR and things. So this is nice, like what we're doing right now.
Awesome.
Perfect example of
not exactly
I love delegation, but collaboration, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's good content. You'll have it soon. So happy to give that as a gift to you, and hopefully some of the members in your online LGBT professional groups as well. Okay, so what are you most grateful for when it comes to being a business owner who is also part of the LGBT family?
I almost said butches. Butch, sexy lesbians. Actually, I like them too. I guess that's. I just had to be a little bit sassy there for a second. I love our community. I really love dancing with boys too, like any LGBT guys who are like really strong. Because I love making them spin when I'm leading salsa class. If I'm leading a salsa dance and there's like a really super strong guy that I'm dancing with, the LGBT guys, I love the way that they teach me how to be funnier.
Nice.
They're just adorable. I love the humor in our community.
Yeah.
I love the way that we're able to laugh and joke around and have fun together and bond.
Yes. And bringing that into business, it's refreshing, right? Like you can have fun and do the things that you love doing, and you can surround yourself with people that make you feel really good. And I think that's important. I have two more. Flirt. Yes. So I have two more questions for you. So can you share one piece of advice to inspire the next generation of outbosses to take that first entrepreneurial leap?
I would say, if you can keep your job and do the business on the side, that is going to be the easiest way to do it. If you're not going crazy from your job, then ideally you keep your job and you do this on the side and build your business. There's something about me working in a job as a bilingual training manager that really helped me to make it easier to just come home and go, whoa, like there's 500,000 more people here than yesterday. And it built as that part of my business actually built as I was working.
Yeah, I think
somebody else.
That is great advice. Just be strategic, be smart if you can, right?
Yeah.
Just like you said. Don't, if you still have that luxury of being able to both work for someone else and build your business, that's a really good suggestion for folks thinking about getting started. So Sharon, thank you so much for your time and for inspiring fellow outbosses. Before we go, can you just share one way that we can stay in touch with you and learn more about your business?
I would say go to outstandinglives.org. So outstandinglives.org. And remember ORG, remember as in organization, or orgasm. Now people will remember .org.
I think people will definitely remember that now. So we will definitely, we'll include that in the show notes for sure. And for outbosses, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. It's always a privilege to connect with you and so many inspiring outbosses like Sharon. So for details from today's conversation, where you can find Outstanding Lives, that will all be in the show notes at outentrepreneur.com. If you don't want to remember all the URLs, just text OUTBOSS to 444-999. Again, that is texting OUTBOSS to 444-999, and you'll get connected with the show that way. Definitely, if you want to get the show to a friend or a loved one, the best way to do it is to subscribe to the podcast. You can leave a rating and review if you'd like. That's always helpful for me. And hopefully it will help your friends, your family, your colleagues. And for now, keep being your authentic selves 100% of the time.